potentially dangerous situation, because not all is as it seems. All right, so after some more brief questions, they decide that they'll, Kirk and McCoy decide they'll postpone the health checks of Nancy and Robert Crater, so that he can beam up and perform an autopsy. Just at the end, she does ask about more salt tablets, and which I'm finding to be a little bit odd. Granted, in that kind of a heat, you do tend to lose water, and I can understand some need, but I got a feeling there's going to be more to that. We beam up. We get to the next scene, which is on the bridge, and we get some minor flirtation, but of Uhura in the direction of Spock, although Spock does not reciprocate. And after that, we find that the bridge gets alerted to the landing party beaming up with one member of their party dead. Spock, makes no attempt to find out who it was, and Uhura is a little shocked at that. But given that Spock is a Vulcan and a rational, logical being that tries to keep his emotions in check, it's not overly surprising that there was no, very little response to that. And now we get to, to the doctor's report on the autopsy that he's just completed. So the doctor's report, in connection with Spock, included by video chat, as it were, is essentially that he wasn't poisoned. That while the plant that he found, that Kirk found in his mouth was an alkaloid poison, it was not what killed him. And there's still no explanation to all the red circular marks on his face. McCoy also comments that he thinks his eyes may be tricking him, that when he first looked at Nancy, she looked younger than when he first knew her, essentially. And Kirk's like, I don't care. I just want to find out what killed my man. Which I can certainly understand, because it's a danger. Partially, it's a danger to him and his crew, but also it's a mystery that does need to be solved. What killed his officer? I do have a sense that Nancy Crater is holding something back, although what that something is, I don't know yet. But I still have this kind of suspicion that that she was involved in his death somehow. His ability to chameleonize herself into any woman, or into the woman that that the man is expecting, she's got to be the what the man trap is. But in terms of what kind of trap she's kind of pulling, I don't know yet. But I am finding it to be quite the enjoyable episode in one respect, because if this officer had followed orders and kind of stayed and not gone after essentially another man's wife, which is essentially what was going on there, possibly, he may not be dead. Back on the bridge, Spock continues his report, and essentially everything's checking out. I'm not seeing any issues with the Craters. They arrived there 5 years ago. There's been no problems. There's been regular shipments to and from the planet with no incidents. And then McCoy contacts them and tells them to get down to the morgue, down to the infirmary, where he's conducted another autopsy and found that the dead officer is completely drained of salt. None, not an ounce, left in his body. And McCoy also makes the admission that I was mistaken with in terms of the marks in his face, that it looks like that may have been how the salt was removed somehow. So Kirk beams down to the planet with a full landing party, including Dr. McCoy, to confront the Craters about what they've learned, what they've discovered, and to see if they've got any further information for them. At this point, Nancy's nowhere to be found at this stage when they get down there, and Robert is, he's acting cagey. He too is, he's not disclosing everything that he knows. And at this point, I'm finding this to be puzzling when, is life-threatening danger at hand. One would think that, he and or whatever Nancy is with her chameleon-like ability, that Robert would he's got to be aware somehow. He's got to know that there's something wrong here, but why he's not disclosing what he knows, I'm not sure, but I am looking forward to finding out, because I got a feeling that whatever this trap is, he's very much caught in it. But why he is still alive, if he is caught in this trap, I don't know. I do look forward to finding out. So, after the interrogation, the captain feels that for their own safety, he should beam up Doctor and Nancy Crater, to try and keep them safe from whatever is has killed his crewman Darnell. And not too long after this, while Kirk is telling Spock to arrange quarters for them, Dr. Crater runs off, and he finds one of the landing party, Sturgeon, dead, with the same red corpuscles or red marks on his face, and is yelling out to Nancy that he's got salt. So it appears that whatever Nancy is, she's the thing that that is craving salt, but she also senses the danger, because we see in the very next camera cut, we see her holding her hands over the other crewman's body, who's also dead. We find out a few moments later his name is Green. And she doesn't come running after. When she hears that that her, and I use the term loosely, husband has got salt, she doesn't come running. It's possible that she's been sated for now with the two dead crewmen. They've managed to sate her enough so that she's able to control her urges for it. But she, when she realizes that her life is could potentially be in danger if she's found, she changes her appearance so that instead of looking like Nancy, she looks like the now dead crewman Green, and insinuates herself into the investigation, per se, as many a criminal has done. I mean, will say I'm a bit of a Criminal Minds fan, and that's a little bit of that coming out there. Good show, I might add. Anyway, so she now is Green, so I'm just gonna call her Chameleon Alien for now. Whatever she is capable of murder and needs salt, and whether or not she somehow is able to drain the salt from her victims, and for what purpose, I don't know, but... So, the Crater Alien, I'll call it for now, has successfully beamed up to the ship, posing as, I'll call it Lieutenant Green. I'm not quite sure of his rank off the top of my head, but still. And is now starting, to wander the ship, and has got a bit of a tell with the biting of the finger. And he seems to be looking around for sources of salt. So I'm guessing that whatever this creature is, it kind of needs it to survive, to the point of not caring about other life forms per se, will kill to get it, because it's a source of nourishment, it's source of food, and humans are naturally high in salt content. I mean, just
think about how sweaty we get, when we're exercising, and how salty sweat tastes. Not quite sure if anyone has kind of deliberately tasted it, but still. Um, so it's now this creature is now roaming the ship, looking and is now a danger to to the entire crew. So Green has been following around Yeoman Rand, or more particularly the tray of food that she is carrying around, which has got a little salt shaker on it, and is kind of like a dog with a scent, following the salt around to wherever the tray got left. And we find there's two references here that I just want to bring up. One is that a hobby of Sulu's is that of botany. Seems to be a trait with, and I don't mean to sound racist or anything here at all, just to cover myself, but seems to be a trait with the Asian characters, because later on in Next Generation, and this is something I'll talk to about more when I get there, both the Next Generation and DS9, as it's a crossover character, is that of Keiko O'Brien, Chief O'Brien's Asian wife, who also has got a knack for botany. Don't know if there was any particular intention there behind that one, but just something which I noticed. And secondly, is a reference that Sulu makes after Janus gives him his tray of food, is "May the Great Bird of the Galaxy smile on you." The Great Bird of the Galaxy is, for those of you who aren't aware, was a nickname of Gene Roddenberry, the creator of this all too wonderful Star Trek series. And so I like the fact that that he gets an unofficial kind of mention here in terms of his role in this world, I suppose, if you will. So we'll see where Green goes to next. So the crater alien has transformed once again. This time, before the transformation, he does actually catch up with Sulu in the tray. And Sulu's plant, who has been nicknamed Beauregard, has a real freak-out session when it gets close. So whether or not it can sense, the true nature of what the crater alien actually is, I don't know, but it certainly makes sense. And it seems to have some kind of self-defense mechanism in terms of just kind of withdrawing into itself. After he runs away, he just meanders down the corridor and sees Uhura leaving a turbo lift, and changes into what would be an attractive man for her. And starts to corner her a little bit, and is about, I'm assuming, to try and kill her or suck her, kind of vampirically, suck her her blood for the salt or whatever it is that this alien does when she gets saved by the bell by both Kirk calling her to the bridge and Uhura and Rand and Sulu, leaving the botany, the Arboretum, Life Sciences Department, to all go to the bridge together. So the crater alien is still wandering around the ship, and it's like, so many people, but not a one to eat. What a shame. So as he, for now, is meandering around, we kind of cut to the bridge, and they decide, okay, well, we can't find Mrs. Crater on the surface. For some reason, she's not turning up on the scanners. And so we'll beam down and find out from Professor Crater, what the heck is going on. McCoy, on the other hand, is having a tough time sleeping, and the Crater alien has managed to find McCoy's quarters and changes appearance once again back to that of Nancy Crater. And he, of course, is stunned to find her there because everyone's been looking for her and has been unable to find her. And so now I am very worried for what could happen to McCoy, because he, being the caring, wonderful man that he is about to put himself in mortal danger, and he doesn't even know it. So, as it turns out, she did find someone to eat. So, after um, going into McCoy's quarters and him telling her about his sleeping pills, she offers to get him some water, and we cut to a hallway where we find miscellaneous crewman killed with the same red circular marks on his face. No doubt we'll find that he has been killed due to salt deprivation. This has changed from being a manhunt on the surface to being a manhunt on the ship. And we will see how successful this manhunt is. Next, we find the crater alien in McCoy's quarters. McCoy has taken some of the sleeping pills and is passed out and is barely hearing the call for him to go to the bridge. And Nancy, or the crater alien, has changed appearance once again to look like him and leaves her quarters. Kirk and Spock have been down to the planet and talking to Professor Crater about his wife, and he's like, he ignores the questions. He doesn't answer them. He evades them. After which, Sulu reports, through the communicator that there was a crewman found dead, and Spock is found green, and they're starting to realize that whatever this creature is, that it can camouflage itself to look like different people, which makes it a very effective killer. And Kirk is starting to realize the danger that he and his crew are in. So Kirk has ordered that all non-essential personnel be kept in their quarters and that security start roaming the ship looking for this alien. And on the planet, Crater is actually actively trying to scare away Kirk and Spock by firing at them, destroying part of the ruins. Which really lets me know that he does know exactly what's going on. And that whatever the secret is, whatever, and I use the name loosely, Nancy is something that he is willing to either kill and or die to protect, and which personally I can understand to a point, because if something happened to his wife, it's a way of keeping her alive. And being a married man myself, I know what I would do to keep my own wife alive. But whether or not I would sanction outright murder, I can tell you that would be a definite no-go. That would be a non-starter. But it appears that Professor Crater doesn't necessarily have that angst. And once again, this does boil down to, that of addiction and infatuation, and the dangers that that can come with that, which I will talk more about when I sum up and make my final comments on this episode, which will be coming up shortly. So Spock and Kirk manage to corner Crater and give him just a bit of a jolt to kind of knock him out of his Nancy-induced, haze, I suppose. To which he finally drops the beans or spills the beans on I wonder what's going on, and that the crater alien is essentially like the last of her kind, and that they needed salt to survive. They ran out of salt on their planet, and as a result, the race died off, all except for her. And she has been surviving on the salt tablets that have been coming through periodically with the annual or quarterly or however kind of shipments. But now that the salt has run out and that the Enterprise hasn't dropped any off, she's going back onto a murderous rage, killing spree. Kirk also reports back to the ship that it has been confirmed that the crater alien can, be disguised as anyone, and it's changed the security alert, on the ship to cater for that eventuality. Although what that particular alert will do, I'm not sure, because even though there are restricted crewmen about, it does it can still be anyone. So we have another briefing session. This one, just before it, we see that real McCoy is still asleep in his quarters, and fake McCoy is joining the briefing. Just a basic report. We've laid out these traps and whatnot. Fake McCoy is trying to lower everyone's expectations. It's just a harmless creature, as long as it's fed. And Professor Crater is agreeing, possibly knowing who the fake McCoy is. I'm not certain about that yet. But agreeing that so long as it's fed, if we just give it kind of salt with no tricks, it'll be harmless. It won't won't be a threat. But something like that can only keep its appetites at bay for so long, and it will be a constant danger to those around it. So after Scylla reports that the searchable decks has found nothing, the briefing continues, and Kirk is continuing to interrogate Professor Crater. And McCoy is still, fake McCoy is still being defensive, and Kirk outright asks him, can you recognize this thing in whatever form it takes? Because you've essentially got anyone you want at your beck and call. It's kind of like Crater's private heaven. Personally, I would think it would be, Crater's private hell in some respects, to be constantly reminded of the thing that, or of the thing that he has lost, being his wife. Regardless of what form it takes, I can certainly tell you that if anyone tried to impersonate my wife whom they had killed, I couldn't, I would see through it in a heartbeat, and I wouldn't have any part of it. But regardless of how good the illusion was. Anyway, it gets to a point where Crater admits that yes, he can recognize it regardless. And when he declines to help in the search for finding the creature, which is in the room with him, by the way, right next to him, they decide to go with truth serum. And fake McCoy, a little reluctantly, but says sure. Spock goes to accompany them to see what the outcome of the truth serum is. Shortly after leaving the briefing, Kirk is called to the infirmary, where he finds Spock injured and Professor Crater dead. And Spock announces that it wasn't McCoy, that the fake McCoy was actually the creature. Fake McCoy goes to real McCoy's quarters and changes into Nancy again, begs for her help, and when Kirk comes in, he's kind of tempting him, you want salt? I've got salt here for you. Come and get it. Come and get it. And McCoy's like, are you nuts? This is Nancy. What are you talking about? You're scaring her. And McCoy, gets right in the way of the whole situation. Eventually, while trying to wrestle the captain's phaser away, Nancy grabs the salt that McCoy had, pushes McCoy away, and stuns the captain, or hypnotizes the captain, so that he can, she can start feeding on him directly. Spock runs in at this point and orders the doctor, who's now holding the captain's phaser, to shoot Nancy. The doctor, because of his long-time infatuation with her, refuses, understandably to a point, but only to a point, and I'll come back to that in just a moment. And Spock, says, look, it's not Nancy. If it is, going to take this, and he begins wailing on her, full-on